people don't respect those jobs because of an image that was given to blue collar trades.
And when she gets mad, she slams the door.
So you know to leave her alone.
I know to leave her alone. I did fail there a little bit because I got fired.
Best salesperson or best mechanic or whatever it might be in the world, but if they're a nightmare to work with, or
So I told them to get their butts out of the office and kicked them out of there.
More money than a lot of people
More
realize,
money
I
than
think.
they really realize.
Yeah. All right, welcome back, everyone, to the greatest blue-collar podcast in the world. I have a special guest today, Mr. Gene Slattery. He is the founder of Automotive Technology Incorporated, also known as ATI. Very well known in the St. Louis and surrounding areas for distributing equipment as far as car lifts, frame racks, all different types of equipment to automotive and body shops in the area. Very well known in this area for that. And he founded that, I think, a little over 40 years ago. So, Gene, there's 3 reasons I wanted to have you on this podcast. Number one is you're a great American entrepreneur, and you've created a great business over the years that your son now has taken over. Number 2 is you are a huge supporter of all of the students going into the trades, which is a big issue that we have right now
It sure
in the
is.
country.
Yeah. Very important.
I got to know you probably, I don't know, in the last decade, going to advisory board meetings at Rankin Technical College. And I know you've been every event that I've ever went to that's involved with the local VOTEC schools promoting automotive trades. You've always been at every event I've ever been to, as far as I can remember.
Well, when you have a passion for something, that does happen.
Yeah.
You know?
So I mean, you could probably be doing anything right now, but you're very, very involved in helping all the schools and helping get them more funding or whatever it might be in order to help support the schools that are having problems. Third reason I wanted to have you on was at one of the advisory board meetings we were at, I'm going to say 5 or 6 years ago. I don't remember exactly, but I remember sitting with you, and you told me a little bit of your background about how you got into the automotive industry because you had a car fire and your car burnt up, and that's what got you interested.
Yes.
So you want to tell us a little about that story?
Sure, I'd be happy to. I was a senior in high school in 1959. I played all the sports, so we didn't have an automotive program at that time. So
sports were kind of your thing.
Sports were my thing, right?
Were you interested in cars at the time?
Well, I owned a car.
Okay.
And I usually worked on it and did little things, but I never repaired it. And I had a 48 Chevrolet coupe. And what happened one night is the cigarette lighter wire shorted and burned up my wiring harness.
Oh, wow.
So, I didn't know what to do. So I went to the dealership and they said, "Oh, we can't do that." I said, "Oh, this is not good." So I went to a service station friend of mine, and he told me, he said, "Gene," he said, I just can't. I don't know anything about that.
The wiring.
The wiring, right, the wiring. They can fix cars, but they can't fix the wiring. So I said, "Well, son of a gun, what do you think I can do?" And he says, "I want to tell you something. I've got this manual." And it was a Chilton manual. And he says, "I think there's schematics in there." I said, "You think there is?" So we went and I looked. Sure enough, there was my schematic. So I bought the book. I went home and read the book and fixed my car.
Gotcha.
Rewired it, but I did not rehook up the cigarette lighter. I
Gotcha.
left that out of there.
That out.
But
how much stuff got burnt up? Was it just the wiring?
Quite a bit. I had to rewire basically the dash all the way back to the alternator, or generator at that time.
Right.
And so, I mean, it took me quite a while to do it. But I got it done, and that just kind of got me involved a little bit. And I graduated in 1959 from high school. I went to work in a sheet metal shop for a while. And then I had 2 jobs. I'd work during the day, and then during the Christmas season, I always worked at the cheese factory at night. And kind of got in a little problem because I was tired the next day, and finally I had to change jobs because they didn't appreciate me being tired on the job, which I can understand.
Right.
So I went to work in a factory and did that for a while. And then there was a pure oil station in Sun Prairie, right down from the high school. And the guy wanted to get out of business. Well, I was 19 years old, so I went ahead and talked with him. He said, yeah, he said, I want to retire. And I says, okay, well, let me see what I can do. So I went to the bank, and I had some money lined up. And then we set up a meeting with Pure Oil. And they said,
Was that a filling station?
It's a filling station, gas station at that time. Big red birds they had.
Okay.
You know.
I don't think I've ever
Firebirds,
seen
they call them. Yeah.
Gotcha,
Well, that's been 60 years ago.
Gotcha.
So, but anyway, I met with Pure Oil, and back then you had to be 21 for everything. You couldn't vote, you couldn't do anything, you had to be 21. And they said, hey, Gene, there's no way we can give you that gas station because you're only 19 years old. So I went building silos. You know, back then the farmers all needed silos for their crops and stuff to store the corn and things like that for feed. So I went and built that for about nine months, and they called me up. And the guy they put in there cost him a lot of money. He was a bad operator and didn't pay his bills and that sort of thing.
The person in the silo.
The person that actually had the gas station and got the gas station.
Oh, gotcha.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, he got the gas station instead of me because he was 21 or older.
Gotcha.
So they called me up and they said, look, if you want that gas station, we're going to make an exception. I was 19 at that time, but I was 20 then the next year naturally. So they said, well, we can get by this a little bit. So I said, all right. So I went to my banker and got the loan secured and everything. And I had just bought not too long ago a nice Ford convertible, Oxford blue, white interior. It was beautiful. Mm-hmm. I sold it and bought a pickup truck. And then we went in and had the meeting with Pure Oil to finalize the deal. And the banker looked at me, he says, any kid that sells a convertible to buy a pickup truck is damn excited about getting in the gas station business.
Because that's what you had done.
That's what I did. And he said, I'll give him any amount of money he needs to open the doors. And that's what I did. So, you know, you got to realize I was a young kid. I didn't know how to repair cars. Mm-hmm. I didn't know how to run a business. So they sent me to school for 30 days. I learned how to operate the station, pump gas, and change oil.
Was it considered a franchise?
Well, at that time, you were just, I mean, you bought everything and all your parts and everything. You did everything what you wanted to do in that station. They furnished the building.
Gotcha.
And you had to buy their gas. You know, you had to buy their gas and oil. Gotcha. And, of course, I bought their tires and everything like that from then. Mm-hmm. So, but it was kind of funny because one thing I knew, you could drive by this service station during the day and at night, and it wasn't any difference because you couldn't see inside. So one of the first things I did, I cleaned up the entire gas station. And the johns and everything were just terrible. I cleaned all that up. I did all the windows, cleaned all the windows, and everybody that come in and buy gas, they said, this is the first time we've ever been able to see the service base. So, you know, you do things to market your product and made it really look nice. I was in that business for 3.5 years. Got married. My girlfriend at the time was my wife, Barb. And she wasn't happy I sold a convertible and bought a pickup. I can tell you that. But she got over that. Yeah. We had Doug, our son, while we were in the gas station. And but here's the thing I'd like to say to the young people. I didn't know anything. I didn't even know how to change. I knew a little bit of how to change a tire, but didn't understand how to be safe and how to do things. But being able to find that Chilton manual and read that manual, I was able to fix cars that I never dreamed I could fix. And I learned everything out of those books. Then I bought some diagnostic equipment because back then, I mean, you had to diagnose the problems.
So were you the only mechanic
Yes,
there?
at that time.
Okay, at that time.
To get started.
Gotcha.
And I hired a mechanic after that, and hired somebody to pump gas. In fact, I hired my dad to help pump the gas.
And we're in early 60s. Right
Early
now.
60s,
Gotcha.
and that was in Sun Prairie, Wisconsin.
Gotcha.
So, what was funny about the diagnostic equipment is I read all the manuals. Nobody that ever bought diagnostic equipment ever reads the manuals.
Right.
Well, I didn't know nothing, right? So I learned how to use the equipment, and then the son guy that I bought it from, he helped me out. He was so excited at what we were doing that he moved to Sun Prairie, where I live.
Oh, wow.
And he did all this training in Sun Prairie for all the people that bought Sun equipment.
And a lot of that reason is probably because you actually read the manual and learned how to properly use the equipment.
Exactly.
And that inspired him. He's like, I can
Yeah.
tell this guy is very interested.
That's
in
right.
getting into this.
And we really did. And I helped him with the training programs with his customers.
And Sun they were a big diagnostic.
At that time, yes, they're big diagnostic
Yeah.
equipment, very, very the best you can buy.
Right,
you know.
right.
And the nice thing about that was that I learned how to rebuild distributors. I learned how to take carburetors apart and put them back together again, fix them. I always gave people about 3-4 miles a gallon more after I fixed the car. And then I bought an Amco brake machine at that time, and learned how to cut all the rotors and and fit the brake shoes to the drum. Did all that. And just really, we were swamped. I mean, we were fixing cars like crazy. I joined the JCs, so I got involved in marketing. I joined
JCs.
Yeah, it's an association of business people
Okay.
and people who, I mean, they did a lot of charity work, and we did a lot of crazy things with them. It was I don't remember what the real definition was, but it was still around. I mean, it's a great
Gotcha.
organization.
Gotcha.
And very, very good for socially. You'd meet everybody. And
Gotcha. Businesses connecting with businesses.
It's just
and
absolutely good for
Gotcha,
business.
gotcha.
Then I had a Capart housing development behind me, and I hired one of the guys to work with us that was a mechanic, and I put him to work. And then pretty soon, we pretty well took over the Capart housing development. I mean, they just kept us busy all the time. And I can remember one time there was 3 weeks of weather below 16 below zero.
Oh, wow.
Nothing started. I mean, I would go to somebody's house, take the spark plugs out and put them in their oven. That's how bad things were,
Wow.
And then I always had a heater that I could put on the radiator, and we had to keep it warm at night in order to get it started the next morning.
Right.
It
What
was
isn't
really-
it like diesels have
Like
heaters
a diesel-
now, but back
Yeah,
then that
same
probably
thing.
wasn't as big of a thing back then.
Yeah, it was huge back then because
Was it?
I sold it like crazy to people. I said, hey, you can get up in the morning and start your car and it's warm.
Right, right.
I mean, so it was quite.
So you
it was
would
quite
sell
big.
aftermarket block heaters, basically.
Oh, absolutely.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and so I mean, and then the other thing that really helped me too, and I just say this because I belong to all the associations.
Mm-hmm.
I joined the Automotive Association out of Madison, Wisconsin at that time. Got really involved. They had classes and training. I went to all those training classes. The jobbers back then, because we had points and condensers and those kind of things, vacuum advances. So you had to learn about them. Well, the jobbers had all like Eklund, they all come in and had training classes to teach you how to fix the distributors and that thing. So a big part of my business was repairing distributors, rebuilding them, rebuilding carburetors, and diagnosing problem cars. So, and I think I even got in for a little while. I was almost graduated into taking engines out and rebuilding them, but I didn't have the capability of doing that, so I kind of stayed away from that. But I know I did one for sure.
Right.
Again, sit down and read the book,
Yeah.
and it's all doable.
Right.
So
just research and learn.
that's all it is.
And in today's world, information's so much more readily available that there's really no excuses.
There's no excuses.
There are cases where you might not have the right tools.
True.
Which I understand that.
Yes.
But outside of that, there's really no excuses.
No, the information today is just phenomenal. I mean, I literally had to learn everything because, I mean, you had to read. You had no television that you could go and sit down and look in front. You certainly didn't have any internet or anything that you can ask questions to.
Right.
But I did that for 3.5 years. And I had a very successful service station. I really feel, I mean, I fixed probably every problem car in Sun Prairie. At that time, it was about 10,000 population.
Wow.
And I knew everybody. I mean,
You were the go-to.
I was the go-to, and I did. And what's interesting about that, though, they didn't know who I was until I got in the gas station. They knew I played football and baseball and all that, track and everything. They knew that, and they knew who I was. And I had a lot of friends from that, the people would come in and trade. But after I started fixing cars, it was an amazing transition because I'd go to a JC meeting and be walking by somebody, and they'd say, boy, he says, take it to Gene's Pure Oil. Take it up there if you want to get your car fixed right. He says, he's not cheap. I like that. And he said that he'd fix it.
Yeah,
and I fixed all kinds of cars all the time. Anybody had a miss in their engine or anything like that. I mean, of course, we had wires that would go bad. You had plugs that went bad. Mm-hmm. You had valve springs that broke. You had, all kinds of valve intake manifolds that were leaking, because the gasket was bad. So there was plenty of work to go around. And after 3.5 years, though, what was interesting, the Sun guy was extremely excited about me, about what I've done and everything. He says, you need to start selling diagnostic machines. And I said, well, that's interesting. I said, I never thought of that. And he said one thing to me that made a lot of sense. He says, Gene, as a mechanic, you can only do what your hands can do. And you can work very hard, but you can only do so much. Yeah. So there's a limit to what, now you can hire more technicians, but there's a limit to what I could do personally. But he said, if you got in the sales field, you could multiply that yourself by 100. Because if you sell a customer a piece of equipment and you teach them how to use it, it'll be your friend for life.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what sold me on considering that. Well, then I had a young man that come in and he wanted to buy the gas station. So I sold him the gas station. I went on straight commission selling Sun diagnostic machines. Didn't know anything about selling, but I knew the machine.
Straight commission.
Straight commission.
Wow.
Another gamble.
Yeah.
Just like going in a service station. To me, with Sun, that gave me a tremendous opportunity that I never dreamed of. I called on all the high schools. Well, they needed help too, because they didn't know how to diagnose cars.
The high school
automotive programs.
And that was a big thing back then.
Big thing back then. So many of them needed equipment, and of course I helped them purchase the equipment, and then trained them. And then now you've got the high schools training kids on how to fix cars. So the next step naturally would go to a vocational school and get yourself a good education, and bam, you're right into mechanic. Mm-hmm. So I did a lot of that.
So you've literally been helping the high school since the 60s?
Since I was 20 years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you still do it. Yeah. That's incredible.
Yeah, I do a lot more now than I did back then. I did. I really enjoyed I was young, so I loved the teachers and the kids. We had a good time. But the thing that I learned though is I learned how to sell. And by selling the man the product and training him how to use it, he made money. Mm-hmm. We improved all their businesses because they fixed the car. Mm-hmm. And then the next thing we decided is you needed a merchandising program. Well, how do you merchandise your equipment after you buy it? So we run free service clinics. And that is, we'd invite all their customers in and we'd diagnose their cars free of charge. but we checked the whole car. When we were done, we gave them a list of everything that was wrong and then had a discussion with them as to what they needed to fix first. They didn't have to fix everything. They just had to fix maybe some major things. Mm-hmm. That transpired my whole career. I mean, I was promoted in a couple of years to Sun in Chicago. I helped actually design the clinic information and how you use a checklist to go down and check the water and check the oil and check the tires and, you know, check the brakes, you know, the whole list.
Basically a checklist that shops.
The whole car.
Gotcha.
And we gave that to the shops. And then I was promoted to Houston, Texas. It was one of the worst regions in the country. None of my friends wanted me to go there. They said, you're just going someplace where you're going to fail. And I said, I don't fail. I said, I feel good about what I'm doing. I know I was successful as a salesman. And so I went to Houston, and now I trained all those salesmen how to use the equipment and read the manuals. I taught them how to run service clinics. We were running service clinics every week, 2 and 3 times in some kind of areas, or in the evening. We helped all the car dealers. We helped all the independent shops. We helped the service stations. And I can't tell you, our business down there just boomed. Wow. I mean, they were doing about $350,000 a year when I got there, and we immediately turned it up to over $500,000. And 5 years later, when I left, we were hitting $1 million.
That was big numbers back then.
Oh, huge numbers, yeah. And I'll tell you a little interesting story about that. And I did fail there a little bit because I got fired by Sun. And but I was fired by an ex-salesman up in Wisconsin who I knew. Never really cared for the guy, you know. So we weren't friends.
You just dealt with each
associates.
other.
We dealt with each other.
Yeah.
Well, he became my boss. And I was the kind of person that when I went back to the home office, all the engineers wanted me to visit because I knew the equipment, I understood the equipment, and they got some ideas that they were going to build something. They appreciated me coming to the engineering department to talk about it, you know, and just discuss what we do and how we do it. Well, he didn't like that relationship because he didn't have it. When he went back there, they didn't really care to talk to him. And because of that, then he fired me, probably 4 years into Houston. And we were booming. We had a tremendous business going.
Right.
And again, we got it with all the associations. We went to all the associations meetings. We went to all the shows every year. We did that with AMCO. We did that with the ASC, Garage Owners Associations. We were busy all the time, and we were helping our customers make money. Mm-hmm. And we spent a lot of time showing people how to make money, you know. And it just turned things around for them, you know. So it really worked. But so that was a failure, being fired. And I'll tell you just a quick story there. I wanted to change what I was doing, so I went to work for Sears Roebuck.
Okay.
And
they were big at that time.
They were big at that time, and I ended up selling carpet. Well, I'm a pretty good salesman because I sold $1 million worth of carpet in about 6 months, and they never seen anybody in the world sell $6 million worth of carpet.
Wow.
And I just happened to get with a contractor that was building some apartments, and it got to put a nice deal together. Well, the guy that fired me, Son told him he had to come back and hire me. And of course, they called me first and said, would you come back to work?
And this was a 6-month gap.
Yeah, so in 8 months after they fired me, he had to come down, and he bought me a nice big steak and ate a little crow. And but it was a funny story to that, because they must have had those steaks next to Limburger cheese. And you couldn't eat them because they stunk so bad. So it was a great night for me, you know,
right.
I didn't care about him necessarily. And but anyway, he did hire me back, but to me,
Was that a hard decision after kind of getting burned like that?
well, I had so many friends at Sun, it wasn't like getting burned. I mean, they offered me to go any place in the country.
Gotcha.
And I just didn't want to do that. I said, if I'm good enough for California, for Omaha, Nebraska, or wherever you want to send me, I said, I'm good enough for Houston. And then they knew what I was saying, because that's the truth. Mm-hmm. And but I did come back. The guys were really upset, and it was kind of a joke. They said, well, we know now you can be fired. So, it just changed the whole atmosphere. So I had to build that team back up. And then he was kind of stirring up some more crap again. And the vice president of the company called me up and said, look, he said, I want you to take over St. Louis. He said, the gentleman up there was going to retire. And he says, you're halfway home. And he says, why don't you come up here and take over St. Louis? So I said, okay, I'd do that.
Did you still have family in Wisconsin at that time?
Yes.
So it was...
All my family is up there in Wisconsin,
Gotcha.
yeah. So it was halfway home. It was kind of a neat suggestion. But he put something else in there, and he says, if you do that, we're going to fire him. Because he can't work with people. I mean, he was having problems all over. Yeah. So I moved to St. Louis, and they fired him.
Gotcha.
So I said, I'd be happy to go to St. Louis.
That's something that businesses need to do more often. You could have the best salesperson or best mechanic or whatever it might be in the world, but if they're a nightmare to work with, or if it's cancer in the shop.
Yeah, that's right. One rotten egg actually could destroy your company.
Yeah, I've seen it happen.
Yeah, me too. And in my business, because I know that, I mean, I didn't put up with a lot of crap. You know, I mean, if you want to sit and argue with me and you don't know what the hell you're talking about, you don't need to work here. Yeah. You know, because what we're doing is right, and you know, you got to take care of the customer. He's our boss. Yeah. Right. I mean, you know that. I mean, if you don't keep him happy, you have no business. Yeah. So if you got people that don't enjoy that and don't want to do that, you got to get them out of your organization. 100%. Get people that love the customer, takes care of the customer, solves problems. Yeah.
And people that want to be there. Yeah. And want to do the job.
Yeah. So I moved up to St. Louis in like 1975, somewhere right around in there. We immediately doubled the sales in St. Louis, because I taught them how to read the book and how to diagnose, right? Worked with all the schools here, even back then. And over the years, I can tell you that we really cleaned up the schools and made the classrooms here in St. Louis a lot nicer. You know, they were pretty crappy back then. And, right. And so we did a lot of changing. And then the last 10 years, we probably helped even hire the teachers we have now. These teachers here, what we have right now, are just tremendous teachers in automotive and collision. They're the nicest people. They love the kids. You know, they're training them. They got good equipment. We help them fix their equipment. We fix their paint booths for them. Yeah. And we're going to be giving them some new welders. Oh, wow. At the three, you know, like North and South and Lewis and Clark, and then CCSI over in Waterloo. Awesome. Yeah, we're going to give them nice welders. And we thought they were just going to be kind of a standard welder. Well, Chief come along and said, no, we're gonna up it. So they're going to give them a really good welder. Good quality welder. Yeah, good quality welder. Good.
I agree, though. I don't know all the instructors. I know some of them, and they're fantastic.
They're fantastic.
And you could tell, like Kenny over at South County Tech. Yeah, you could tell he really, really cares. Yeah. Like he really cares about.
And Jason Buckeye up at North Tech does a tremendous job. Same. Yeah. And Sean Crater out at Lewis and Clark. I mean, they're just doing a tremendous job. And you know, for many years now, we've put together where the administration and the instructors and us are just like this. I mean, we're all working together to give the student the opportunities that are out there.
Right. And what a lot of people don't realize is, particularly the high school programs, automotive and collision, all of them, their funding is horrible.
Oh, I agree.
They don't have enough money to really operate those programs. It's very difficult. So they need people like you and other companies and this and that help these programs stay alive.
Well, we started in 2004, and we were giving away a toolbox, about $1,700 toolbox with tools for the best student in the class, in the collision at that time. And then we decided that we would go ahead and do like an award to the student. So we'd help pay for part of his tuition. So we'd give him $2,000-$3,000 for the top students, so he could go to whichever college he wanted to, and we'd support him. Well, the biggest problem we had some rules and regulations, and you had to write a 500-word essay as to why you wanted to be in the business.
Sure.
And guys wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
So we said, well, we're not going to give money if we're not going to get the paperwork done properly.
Yeah. Because
if in a shop, if you don't write down everything that you put in this car, you're not going to be around very long.
Yeah.
Because it's expensive to do it for nothing.
Right.
And so we basically then decided that we were going to write the school's checks.
Makes sense.
And that's what we've been doing now for several years. Some years we've given them $7,000 a school. This year, I think the least amount we've ever given them was $2,500.
And that's from ATI?
It's from MVTAP.
Okay.
It's a Metro Vocational Technical Association.
Gotcha.
And that's all made up of jobbers, business people, and salespeople. I mean, it's everybody. Everybody's involved. Enterprise Leasing has been just tremendous supporter of ours for that. And, at one time, the classrooms were pretty bad shape, so we all went up there and cleaned up all the classrooms and did a fabulous job on it. And, it's just, when you got a nice, clean classroom and you got a good instructor, it's amazing all the good things that start happening.
Yeah.
We've got the greatest teachers. We've got a great administration that supports that. And we're happy. We'll have 3 or 4 fundraisers that we're doing all now. And we've even added in the automotive program. So this last year we had a trap shoot.
Yep.
And we raised over $16,000, and we split the money between the automotive and the collision.
Gotcha.
And diesel. And some of the high schools have diesel programs.
Gotcha. And then we had that golf tournament.
Yeah, the golf tournament.
Recently.
We had a golf ball drop, and all that money goes to the collision department.
Yep.
And so we've really progressed a long time. And, one thing way back yonder, 40 years ago, iCar. I helped bring iCar into St. Louis.
Okay.
A bunch of body shops and myself. I was selling Sun Equipment as a regional manager.
So we'll get back to you moved to St. Louis in about 75-ish.
About 75. And then 40 years ago, basically we got this body. They had gone to Chicago and talked to iCar, and they come back. They were all fired up, and being that I knew them all, and we were selling Select benches at that time to the collision department. Schools.
Through Sun?
Yes, through Sun.
Oh, they sold collision?
Yeah, at that time.
Frame racks, too.
Yeah, at that time they did.
Interesting.
And so we brought the iCar program into St. Louis, and Tony Aleo was a technician at Wiki Autobody. Never taught in his life. Had a beard and a mustache, just like you have, and talked a little funny. He did, because he had a little foreign in him. And but he took on training and did a phenomenal job. And most of us would attend those classes 4 or 5 nights a week. Mm-hmm. We did that probably, 1, 2, 3, or 4 years. I don't even remember. We got a little tired. And then a guy by the name of Bill Hill, who you probably know.
I can't recall.
Well, Bill was the body shop manager at at the Mercedes-Benz dealership,
Okay.
Plaza Motors.
Yeah, yeah.
And we dear friends with him, and he took over that program. And then Dan Szymanski got involved with iCar. He did a phenomenal job with iCar, and I kind of stepped out of it back then. I was kind of wore out a little bit,
Right.
and stepped out of it. So to me, those are all good things. And now with iCar, of course, they're part of what we do at MVTAP. Mm-hmm. We now have, we did the trap shoot, which we included Automotive in. Then we did our golf ball drop in our golf tournament this summer. And we probably, between those two, I'm thinking we raised pretty close $25,000.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty good.
That's money these schools need.
Yeah. And then we've been, we used to go to the racetrack and have a job fair there. And then COVID came along.
I did that. I worked that one
That's
quite
right.
a few times. Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine 2,000 kids? I shouldn't say kids. Young adults. Young adults come and they had a T-shirt on that identified them, that it was an iCar T-shirt, and 2,000 young men and women walking through the racetrack. They were the talk of the entire event.
Yep, I remember doing a few of them.
Yeah, we did that for like 4 years.
Yeah,
and then of course COVID hit, and
it was noisy though. I remember it was during the NHRA races.
Well, the biggest problem we had, because the students were being interviewed by the people who had a table.
Right.
They paid quite a bit of money to have a table, and the students would come in and be interviewed. Well, then we were right at the finish line at the NHR racetrack. So it was zoom, zoom, zoom all day long. But I mean, students loved it, and we didn't care. But it was very noisy to talk business,
right?
To them. So COVID then kind of gave us a couple of years there where we really couldn't do anything. So Enterprise bought a new, almost a whole complex of offices up on Lindbergh and Dell Road.
Okay.
And actually it's Page, right before Lindbergh. And the complex is just a huge, tremendous complex. So last year we had a job fair there. We had 230 students. Everybody came with a resume. Everybody was interviewed. And we were so busy, we didn't even know how many they hired, but we know a lot of contacts were made. And everybody, all the people that were there, the employers, they walked away with a whole ton of information from juniors and seniors.
Yep. They
were so impressed with those students. I mean, it was just amazing. It was just an amazing day. So away from the racetrack, we decided that was by far better because it was quiet, and everybody could talk, and nothing was interfering. However, NHRA always invites the students and the schools. They can go to the racetrack free. Mm-hmm. And they give them tickets, and they give them parking passes and everything.
Just as kind of a benefit.
So they can go and do it, but now they can go and enjoy themselves, and they don't have to worry about coming and being interviewed or something,
Now, don't you guys have another one of those this Friday, right?
Yeah, this Friday, the 17th, we have another one at Enterprise, and I just gave the numbers are 240 people will be at that event.
240 students.
Students.
Wow.
Yeah, students and employers.
Gotcha.
So that's pretty tremendous. It's probably the finest thing we've ever done, because the students loved it. They get a chance to actually talk to people who are in the business, and the connections. That's what life is. You got to make a connection. If I know you, and you impress me, and I'm looking for somebody, guess who I want to hire?
100%.
100%. And so I think we've really come a long way over the years, and it's all because I really feel we have a nucleus of people here in St. Louis like Shelley Jones,
Yeah.
you know, she's my right hand as far as what we do. I mean, she's Secretary Treasurer of MVTAP. She's the head of ICAR here in St. Louis. She's run that for several years. We have 30 people come to our ICAR meetings, so we got a good nucleus of hard-working people working together to get everything done. We had a meeting last night, and we're going to start painting bowling alley pins
I heard about this.
as a competition.
Yeah, I heard about this.
Yeah, in fact, we're going to ask you to be a
Yeah,
judge.
yeah. Kenny's already asked me.
Yeah,
He already
that's
asked me
good.
about it. Yeah, I
So-
told him I'd be happy to.
Yeah, I know you would.
Yeah.
And we'll get people of your quality that'll be judging, and then we're going to have a local competition of the schools. We'll have CCSI, and then we'll have North and South Tech and Lewis and Clark, and they'll be competing with each other, and we'll pick the winners, 2 winners at each school. And then those winners can go to Finish Masters over in Indiana with CREF. CREF is the Education Foundation of ICAR,
Yep.
and they're behind that. And so those, and then of course,
Will they compete in the Finish Master
yes,
competition
and
next
the
year then?
competition next
Gotcha.
year is what we're going to
I've been
do.
out there before. I judged one of their competitions out
well,
there.
that's
a few
exactly
years
what
back.
we're trying to do. And we'll probably introduce this to some of the other collision schools around Missouri and Illinois.
Spread it out a little bit.
Spread it out a little bit if we can
Gotcha.
have enough time to do that.
Point I wanted to make while I was thinking about it, whenever, for all the students out there, whenever you go to these job fairs, don't necessarily think that you have to get something out of it right then. Just because you don't get a phone call right then, you're presenting yourself to people who you're going to see for a very long time if you stay in this industry. And just having those conversations with different employers, they're going to remember you. So don't think that it was a waste of time because you didn't get a job right then and there. It's a long-term relationship you're wanting to build with all these different people.
Yeah,
Would you agree?
And that takes a little time, but you know the way I looked at it is, the employers were so impressed with the students.
Right.
I mean, that's the best thing we've ever seen.
Yep.
So you know, maybe you wouldn't be a technician, but there's all kinds of jobs
Right.
to get started.
Yep.
And you know, I've always told students, I said, if you go to work for somebody and they tell you to clean the toilet,
Clean the toilet.
but clean it better than anybody else. If you're going to wash cars, which we really don't feel you should wash cars, we detail cars, right?
Yeah.
That's a big business.
Yeah.
Guess who sees that car first? The customer.
Yep.
Guess who he talks to? The boss.
Yeah.
And pretty soon, the customers are telling the boss what a great person you are who detailed your car.
Yep.
Guess what? Your boss will come over and talk to you, and now you maybe can get a different kind of job.
Yep. One of the most
that's how you
common,
move up.
yeah, one of the most common CSIs that we get at work is one of the biggest comments I would say is the customers commenting on how clean their car was when they picked it up.
That's right.
Or if there's a mistake and it's dirty, they're going to let you know about
They're
that
going
too.
to see it right away.
They might not notice anything else,
That's right.
but if that car is perfectly spotless, they're going to notice that, and that's going to fall back to that entry level position of a
absolutely.
detailer.
You know, when I ran that gas station, back then, we washed every window on the car, and you had to pay attention. It had to be spotless, because if you left one spot, the person saw it.
Yeah.
So you had to do a good job. I mean, if you didn't, they wouldn't come back.
Right.
But they come back if you clean everything.
Yeah.
But we check the belts, we check the air conditioning, we check their lights for them while they're in buying
But
gas.
they don't see that stuff. They see those windows.
They see the windows. That's
They
right.
see the windows.
So it's kind of like that gas station about cleaning those windows.
Yeah.
Everybody in town knew for the first time that's a business.
Yeah.
And if you want to impress somebody, don't have dirty windows.
Yeah.
Clean them.
Yeah.
Make it look like a business.
100%.
And then you got to clean everything inside.
Yeah.
Can't leave junk laying all over.
Yeah.
because now people can see it.
Yep. Yep.
So that window thing is pretty impressive.
Yeah. So you started your business ATI in 1982.
Yeah, right. I lost my job with Sun in 81. Same old story. They had changed management, and they were basically getting rid of all us managers who built the company. Because when you get new managers and they got their own ideas of what they want to do, and truthfully, they made a really bad mistake, because all us managers, we knew what we were doing. They didn't know what we were doing. We were like little presidents in each one of the regions. So we were the brains behind the company. You take the brains out of the region, and who's left? Salesmen can't just go out and sell everything themselves. Right. They need the guidance. They need, they got to have management in order to make that work.
Would you say it became too corporate?
Absolutely. And so they came down with me and asked me to retire. And I said, I'm not going to retire. I said, I have nothing to retire for. We've got a very successful business here. There's nobody unhappy in St. Louis. It's just with the corporations got their problems. And he said, I got to do something. I said, yeah, just fire me. I said, go ahead, fire me, because I'm not resigning.
Right.
He said, you sure you want to do that? You want that on your record? I said, yes. So I made him fire me. Well, then the one thing, I really never used the government very often, but I did this time because we had unemployment back then. So I took one check, unemployment, and the company resisted. I didn't get the check for a while because they were fighting me. They were saying, I did something wrong with some dynamometer that I actually sold for them and kept the money in St. Louis with them telling me to do that. And I used the money to pay for the expenses of the company in the region. And it was all legit all the way up to the top, but they used that against me just to get rid of me. Yeah. But the good thing about doing that was then I was able to see why they fired me. I would never have known it if I didn't claim unemployment.
Gotcha.
And they fought it. So the people in Missouri were able then to say, well, let's look at the file. And they come back and wrote me out a check and said they lied.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, it was just a phony management decision, Well, that was the happiest day of my life. When he come down to fire me or asked me to resign, I had my desk all cleaned out. My desk was clean. I had the car washed, out there for him. I had the keys on my desk. And he sat down and he said, Gene, I got a funny feeling here. Do you know why I'm here? I said, I knew you were going to be here 3 weeks ago. So this is no surprise. I'm not mad at you. You're doing what you're being told.
Right.
And so I think within probably 30 days, I decided to start doing automotive technology. And I just started, and I took on a Peerless diagnostic machine back then. It was a diagnostic machine, battery operated as well as AC. They had a dynamite emissions analyzer that was about $2,500, or no, $1,895 I think when we started. Sun's was like $3,500.
Wow, that's expensive back then.
They brought in a truckload of those emission analyzers because they really thought they were going to sell the hell out of them. Out of 1,500 emission analyzers in St. Louis, we sold 850.
Wow.
Yeah. So we got the majority of that business. And of course, that just propelled our business.
And that was the beginning of
business
ATI?
Yeah. And then I hired salesmen, and we were blowing and going. And I started down in the gas station, like what I did 20 years ago. But Wiki Autobody, John Daniels there, I got in his building down there. I started the business. We were running classes at night, training.
Where was that at?
That was down on Newstead and Page.
Okay.
Or no, Newstead and Olive, I think is what it was.
Gotcha.
Yeah, right on the corner.
Yeah.
And we did all our training down there, and then it was kind of funny because we were competing with Sun, but I mean, within 6 months we had the business.
You already knew everybody.
I knew everybody. A year later, it's kind of a cute story. A year later, the guy that has the lease on the building that I was in and Sun was in called me up, and it was February, and he says, Gene, he said, got a little problem. He says, Sun was supposed to tell me if they wanted to stay in the office for sign a lease in January. He said, I haven't heard a word. He said, would you like to have that building? And guess what Gene did? Hell yes, that's right. So I told them to get their butts out of the office and kicked them out of there.
That's funny.
And, yeah, it is funny. It's sweet revenge.
Yeah.
So we moved out there, and we never stopped. We moved from there, went to a bigger building right on Finn Park Drive there, and then we finally built our offices. Now we have two large buildings, 17,000 square feet between two of them, and we're just booming.
Yeah.
And Doug is the new owner.
Mm-hmm.
And he bought it, and basically I sold it to him in 2019. I stayed on until I think it was 2021. Then I retired, and I'm the ambassador for automotive technology.
Gotcha.
So I handle all the schools and handle the associations, and I do what I do for the company basically on that end.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the opportunity for a young woman or a young man in this business, it's all up to you. And if you be the best that you can be, and don't be afraid to read a book. Don't be afraid to study. I've gone to schools and classes my entire life, and I'm 82 years old. And it's just unreal what you can do.
Yeah.
So to me, that's the key, and just never stop learning, and just and the more you learn, your brain just keeps working for you.
100%. Yeah.
And you know that. I mean,
yeah.
How can you not be happy painting a car, and then seeing the customer pick it up and just say, "Wow!"
Right. Seeing the final product.
Oh my goodness!
After you fix it, there's a lot of pride in it.
There's
it's
a lot
an
of
art.
pride.
It's an art.
It is an art.
And automotive it's different, but it's the same concept. Somebody's car breaks down.
Yep.
I mean, they're desperate.
You bet.
They need their car running. They need it reliable. They need to be able to take their kids to school or whatever it might be. And
and what you always want to do is a little bit more than what's expected of you.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Always do a little bit more.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can't stress that enough, because the world's full of people that just come to work and they go home at night.
Yeah.
I remember when I was with Sun, when I moved into Chicago with Sun Electric, I was the first one in the office of any administrator. I usually got in there by 7 o'clock in the morning. I worked on the West Coast in California with a divisional manager. So I always stayed till 7 o'clock at night because they were 2 hours behind us. Mm-hmm. And I'm telling you, when I left there, they knew who I was and just couldn't believe that I was taking care of them when nobody else would do it. Mm-hmm. So if you go the extra mile, number one, it makes you feel good. Mm-hmm. But boy, do you ever make your customers feel good.
People remember.
They remember. And in the business, I started in the collision business many years ago, and many, many shops stood in front of the car so the customer couldn't see it when they're going to deliver the car.
Right.
And I
delivered at night.
Yeah,
in the rain.
Right. So I'd always tell them, I said, hey, that's not. I mean, my gosh, you got to clean the wax off of it, and they had overspray, and back then it was a little bit, and we've come a long way.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you one other thing that really changed, because I never minced words with the body shops. When I first started calling on body shops, or any automotive shop, I'd say the same thing too, is the shop was filthy, rotten, dirty. Mm-hmm. And he had rotten, lousy pictures in the Johns. And some of them only had one John. Mm-hmm. So if a woman come in, mm-hmm. she don't want to go in that John and see something like that,
Yeah.
So, I'd go give them my old lecture, and I said, clean this place up. You got your junk cars in the front here. Get them in the back.
Yeah.
Clean this up and make it a showroom up here.
Yeah.
And that really worked.
Yeah.
And together, I mean, I can tell you over 44 years, we've gone from a business that was kind of strange and people weren't quite as good as they are today, to a flourishing business today. And I had one fellow in St. Joe, Missouri. I'll never forget it. I tried to talk to him about. I said, "Look, you got women coming in here today. My God, they had dogs and cats. I mean, crap all over the floor." I says, "Come on, clean this place up." He looked at me. He says, "You're the first guy that ever kind of told me that." And I said, "Well, think about it for just a minute." And I said, I don't want to lose any sales, but I'm trying to help you. I come in there 30 days later. He had all his junk cars he had a kind of like almost another bay over here full of junk cars. When you're restoring cars, how bad it is, Oh,
yeah.
He had it all cleaned up. The dogs were in the back. New furniture in his office, in the front. It looked like $1 million. And I said, "Now, boy, don't you?" He said, "Gene," he said, "I've never been so happy."
Yeah.
I mean, I enjoy coming to work.
It took that little boost from you to just encourage him that it's how important it is.
No, I really believe in that, and it's sometimes it's the little things that you do every day that really solve the majority of the problems.
Yeah. I judge businesses based on the bathrooms.
Oh, yeah.
If I go to a restaurant,
oh my
and
goodness.
I run to the bathroom,
yeah.
if it's not nice, I judge the place by that.
How can you eat food?
Yeah. If the public bathroom looks like that, what does the kitchen that you don't see look like?
That's right. Oh, that's right.
It's a big factor.
Well, and I think the students have just a tremendous opportunity today. I mean, we never had this back when I was going to school. I mean, very, very few schools even had an automotive program. They had a woodworking program.
Even back then, they didn't.
Oh, yeah. There wasn't many at all. A few,
right.
but nothing like we have today, And,
so what about whenever in like the 70s and 80s, were there a lot of high schools that had automotive programs then?
Just about that time is when things started picking up a little bit.
And was it just regular high schools that had automotive programs at that time?
High schools, and then some of the colleges, of course, came on board. I don't remember when Rankin was here when I got here in 75.
They've been around for 100 years, I believe.
I think they have too. Yeah. And there's probably around, even in Houston, I knew there was a lot of schools that had automotive.
Yeah.
Not necessarily collision back then, but automotive. Now they have collision and automotive.
Right. Well, back then they were probably more so thought of as one rather than two completely separate businesses.
Well, they are two separate businesses.
Yeah, 100%.
And they work together, but they are two.
Yeah.
Two different ways of operating.
Yeah.
Totally.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, I wonder, why is it that we only have 3 high schools in the area with automotive programs now?
Well, there's a few more.
Is there?
But how do I say this? The biggest problem I find is that some schools cooperate and work good together with what we're doing, and others don't participate. So if they don't participate, we don't invite them.
Gotcha.
And that might be harsh, but I mean, we were working with the schools who have really improved over the last 15 years and wanted to get their school programs up and running. And I've worked with other school programs around Missouri and Illinois. Mm-hmm. When we had as an example, when we were at the racetrack, we had 14 schools that brought kids. Yeah, we were up.
Some of them were busing them from hours away.
Oh, yeah. Camdenton, great school program down there, wonderful instructors. Rolla, well, Mike Hofstetler, that's where he came
Sounds
from.
familiar.
Well, Mike was a teacher down at Rolla forever.
Gotcha.
And he had a body shop down there, but he just one of those great guys. And he finally retired. But he would do anything for the students. So we bussed him a lot. And then we had Southern Missouri had Poplar Bluff. They had a school there that came up. So we had 14 schools that actually bussed the kids into the racetrack. And then not at that time, we weren't doing anything for the automotive. We were just doing for collision.
Right.
So we started out, I would say we probably started out with 300-400 kids that came to the first one that we had. The next year went to 750, and then it went to 1,500, and when we find the fourth year, I think it was about 2,000.
Wow.
And those are all collision kids. You know,
Yeah.
so.
I don't know if you know this, but when I first launched my Blue Collar Kyle project, when I had 0 followers, I launched it at an enterprise job fair in 2017.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I started in 2017 at an enterprise job fair.
Yeah.
I think it was enterprise. I think it was out in St. Charles or somewhere out that way.
Yeah.
I think it was.
Well, you know what? You're right, because back then we did have a job fair at their technology center.
That's what it was, I believe.
Yeah, and that was beautiful. I mean, we were really excited about that.
Yeah.
The biggest problem is we didn't have enough room.
Right. It wasn't a huge area.
Right, and then we got together with NHRA and the nice people over there at the racetrack. You know, it was Gateway Raceway is what it was until Technology Center now.
Right.
But they were great. I really wish we could do something, but NHRA actually, I mean, those kids can all go to the races now.
Yeah.
And they give them the free tickets and everything.
Free tickets if they attend the job fair.
Yeah. Well, they don't have to attend the job fair even.
Just because
Yeah,
they're
today, I mean, they can go, and that's kind of what made us go back to Enterprise then, because they bought this beautiful facility. And now, but I mean, you know, we're almost outgrowing that.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got 240. Now we do automotive and body technicians. So we're kind of at the max people we can put in that room.
So in the next couple of years, you guys might be.
Well, I don't know what we're going to do for sure, but
how many businesses typically come to something like that?
Well, we shoot for 30. This year we're going to probably have 20, 22.
Gotcha.
Is what we got.
Local businesses, all hiring. But we don't make any money at this. You know, we charge for the golf outing and all the other things that we've been doing, the trap shoot. There's partners that we join with, and they spend a little bit more money to do those kind of things. So what we did at Enterprise, we said, well, look, all we want to do is break even. So we use that $200 a table that we get, and that buys lunch for everybody. And you figure you're feeding 250 people, you're spending about $4,500 in food alone. Right.
And that's all we wanted to pay for. So we make no money on that.
Right.
And
It's
it was
just
our
connecting.
payback. It's connections and it's payback to our partners that have been with us all these years. And, you know, they spend a lot of money for MBTAP and ICAR, and they do a lot of things. And they're great supporters and they're great friends. So this was just our payback to them.
Gotcha.
But we wanted to buy the kids a lunch.
Right.
And it turned out, I think last year we broke even. This year we're going to break even again. So, you know, it's just kind of a really nice deal. And that way there's no real big bucks involved to be there. And it's great for the students, and it was great for everybody that participated from an employer standpoint.
Yeah, and like we said earlier, that networking for students is so important.
Oh, it's absolutely important.
And I hate to think that a lot of students feel like they're not necessarily getting anything out of it, because they're getting a lot out of it, a lot more than they realize, I feel like.
Well, and what's an interview worth?
Right.
You can come
It's
over
experience.
there and you can do 20, 30 interviews.
Yeah.
You can't do that on your own.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, it's a great opportunity to talk to somebody that's going to hire
Yeah.
somebody.
Stand in front of somebody, shake their hands.
Yeah, you can sit there and shake and
Yeah.
make all the mistakes you want. But the point is, you got a chance to interview. Well, I'll tell you what, by a third or fourth interview, you're pretty darn good at it.
Yeah.
And you start watching how the people are reacting to you. And the more you start reacting with the people you're interviewing with, like down at Rankin, I was doing the interviews for the students.
Mm-hmm.
And I had
The ones through the class to teach them.
For Skills USA. Mm-hmm. And I had they'd come over and then I'd interview them, give them that experience. And I had 3 girls that come over and I said, look, how are you? And I looked at the girls. I said, shake their hand. Just because you're a girl,
Right.
just shake their hand,
Right.
And they got such a big kick out of it because they didn't know. Nobody ever told them. There's nothing wrong with a girl going in and interviewing a guy or interviewing with a guy and shaking his hand.
It would almost be awkward if you didn't shake hands.
Well, right.
Yeah.
It is awkward.
Yeah.
So be the leader.
Yeah.
Go out there and shake the hands. And
Yeah.
just little things like that. And be relaxed, which sometimes it's very hard.
But that's experience.
But that's
that
experience.
repetitions
once,
of it.
Once you do 2, 3, 4 interviews,
Right.
you'll get it down pat.
And what people got to remember is you might be a senior in high school and you go to a job fair, you talk to 20 potential future employers, and you might not get anything out of it then, but let's say you go to a 2-year school after that, then you interview somewhere, you might interview with somebody that you had already talked to. They might remember you.
Right.
They might remember, hey, 2 years ago I talked to this person and they were interesting and I want to hire them.
That's right.
It's those connections that.
Oh, you can't beat that. And I'll tell you what, for me, I love people, so I can analyze them right now. I've been doing it for so long. Mm-hmm. And when the person is really interested in getting that job.
Oh, yeah.
And they stand out.
Yeah.
You absolutely know who wants to go in business for themselves. They're excited about it.
Yep.
And they want to do it. But they know they have to go to work someplace first to get that experience before they can think about going in their own business.
Yep.
And so it's great for the students. I think that's one of the greatest things we've ever done is do those job fairs.
Yeah.
And, and I'll tell you what, you might not get a job today. And the other thing that you want to realize is call them yourself. Don't be afraid to call them back. So if you don't get a job, and you kind of were excited that maybe this would be a good place to work, well, just call your contact once in a while and just, see how things are going. They're busy, so you're not on the top of their list.
Right.
So it never hurts to call and ask them.
And it shows that you're determined.
That's right. You're interested.
You've hired a lot of people, I'm sure, over the years. And I'm sure if you get one of those phone calls a week later or whatever it might be, that stands out to you.
That's exactly right. I had a salesman that came to work for me, and he went out and he did all kinds of quotes. But he wasn't selling anything. And he come in my office about 90 days after he started, and he asked me a question. He said, gosh, I got all these quotes out there. He says, how often do you think I ought to go back and see the customer? I says, I would go back the next week. He said, well, wouldn't they be mad? I said, if they're mad, they're gonna tell you to leave. Then you know you need to leave.
Yeah.
But I said, they're not gonna do that if they want to buy something.
Yeah.
And they need more information. So you can go back as often as you want.
Yeah.
And I've always told people, you're looking for a job. If you really want that job, just
pursue it.
Pursue it. Yeah.
Just like if you're chasing a girl, you got to pursue her.
Got to pursue it. That's right. That's right.
Same concept.
Yeah. Well, it's when you say chasing girls, I met my wife when I was building silos. Mm-hmm. And then she went to Madison, Wisconsin, which was right outside of Sun Prairie, about 6 miles from Sun Prairie. She went there, went to vocational school, learned how to be a dental assistant. And of course, I was dating her at that time when she did that. And we've been married 60 years now.
60 years.
For that
Congratulations.
person. Yeah, for that person. So, and she's been in my business ever since I was 20 years old.
Wow.
She came in when I was about 22, I think.
So you guys survived working together.
Working together there.
Running a business together.
Going straight commission with Sun Electric. And then through all the management with Sun Electric. All those 18 years I was with them. And then 44 years we worked together building automotive technology.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you've been asked before, but what's the secret?
Hey, she has an office away from me at the end of the hall. And when she gets mad, she slams the door.
So you know to leave her alone.
I know to leave her alone.
Give her so much time.
Yeah. But no, everybody loved her. She's very good. I tell you what, there's no way that I would have survived this life without her.
Wow.
Because she's helped me where I was weak, she was strong. Mm-hmm. And a very nice person. Everybody at ATI loved her. Mm-hmm. She'd do anything for anybody. In fact, I had to chew her out every now and then because the salesman was too lazy, not salesman, but the service guys are too lazy to fill out their expense reports, so she was doing them for them. I said, baloney, that's stopping. They will do their own expense reports.
Right.
You know, they give them to her in a pile.
Right.
And then she'd fill them out for them. And I said, Barb, that's not, you're not training nobody when you do it for them.
Right.
They need to learn how to do it.
So what was the trick of all these years working together at ATI? Did she have her duties and you had your duties? And
yeah, actually, because I was in sales.
Okay.
She ran the financial part of the company.
Gotcha.
You know, so she did all the book work and things like that. So that really complimented. And then, of course, Doug's been with us for over 30 years. And that's kind of a cute story, too, because I needed some help. And I was going to look for a partner. Probably wouldn't have been a good decision. But I was ready, and I don't know, I just mentioned it to Doug one time we were talking. And I said, yeah, Doug, I said, I've got to do something. I mean, I'm working so long, all weekend long and every day till 10, 11 o'clock at night. You know, I'm starting to wear out. And so he thought about that, you know, and he had gone to the college down in Springfield.
Okay, SEMO.
SEMO, yeah. And he went down there, and he worked for McDonnell Douglas. And and then after school he worked there. It was a wonderful company, but they were going through a lot of changes. Mm-hmm. And some of the managers were being let go. And Doug was a systems analyst. So he was a little concerned with all the changes because they were piling more work on him, naturally. So he called me up one night and he said, Dad, I wouldn't get that partner. He says, I think you and I need to sit down and talk. So we got together, and he came in 30 years ago and basically took over the entire company, you know, and he just basically, I went to paint booths and frame equipment. That's primarily where I was. He basically stayed in the office and organized things and ran the company.
Gotcha.
And eventually I made him the president. He's been was president forever. And
you just stayed in the sales.
Yeah, for that, right. And working with the salesman. You know, I mean,
yeah.
I worked with the salesman all the time. But he ran the business.
Yeah.
And did a tremendous job on that. And we have a tremendous team now that he has. It's just, you know, I met a bunch of new people there. We've hired a bunch of new people because just trying to do service work, we're kind of like you guys, you know, we're months behind, and that's not
right.
Even a day behind sometimes is not acceptable.
Right. Yeah. With what you guys are doing, I mean,
Yeah.
if a paint booth breaks down, it's a problem.
Yeah.
It's a problem.
Exactly.
We've had you guys many times come messing with ours.
And you know, the bigger you get, the harder some of those are, but you've got to make those decisions. In fact, I was talking to the service director last night for quite a while, and we were talking about that, you know, how important it is that when a guy's broke down, he's not making any money.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you got to help him.
Yeah.
And we've done a lot. I mean, just imagine an automotive facility that the car stuck up on the lift.
Right.
Well, that's not a real big issue except for the customer. Mm-hmm. That might be his only transportation. Mm-hmm. Now, some of the dealerships, they can probably find a car and they can give it to them. But we never looked at it that way. When you had a car stuck up, we stopped what we were doing and we'd go up and take that car down. And I'll never forget Johnny Londuff, the service manager up there, called me one night at, I don't know, it was like 4:30 or something like that. And I said, well, I have somebody there right away. I said, we'll be there at 5 o'clock. He said, Gene, I already have a car I gave him. So he says, tomorrow morning, be there. And I says, how about 7 o'clock? He says, that'd be phenomenal. And I said, we'll be there at 7 o'clock. We were there at 7 o'clock and let that lift down. Because I mean, that's their customer.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not their fault the lift broke. You know, they just do. I mean, you lose a cable or you get something stuck, you know.
Right.
So
you're servicing businesses, and if they can't get very quick service, I mean, they're going to find somebody else who can.
We didn't build a business by turning people away.
Right.
I mean,
right.
And a lot of our guys work on the weekends. But how many body shops technicians do you know? I mean, when you're so far behind, there's guys working from 6 until 10. And some of them are coming in on Saturdays and Sundays, you know.
I've done it in the past. I won't do it anymore.
Well, I know, but I
mean,
I don't think it's probably happens as much today, but yet at the same time, most everybody in business knows how important that car is.
Yeah.
And the sooner you can get that car fixed, the happier that customer's going to be.
Yep. And if a paint booth's broken and it's the only paint booth the shop has, the whole shop's shut down, basically.
Yeah, it's shut down.
Yeah, and then it's just going to be a bottleneck.
Yep.
You know, worse than a paint booth generally is in general.
No, that's very true. I mean, we always said that the paint booth was one of the most important things. I mean, that's the last thing that happens.
Yeah.
You know, to that car. I mean, so that you can cure it, and now you got to put it back together again.
Yeah.
And it's very important. And if that line stops because of the paint booth, I mean, you're really in trouble.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's just a way of looking at it. But it's you know, you got to have pride in anything that you do.
Yeah.
And just do better than anybody else. I mean, don't do a half-assed job.
Right.
You know, anybody can do that. The world's full of people like that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing better than taking something that's all smashed to heck and make it look like $1 million brand new when it comes. Give it to the customer.
Putting it all back together.
Put it all back together again.
Yeah.
And of course I felt automotive wise the same thing. I mean, if you make that car run properly, and the guy steps on the gas and almost squeals the tires. Mm-hmm. He remembers that.
Yeah,
you know, he remembers that.
Yeah.
So that's what you want to do. I mean, you want to be better than everybody else.
Yep.
And you don't have to give. You don't have to give in. You can do it.
It's extremely important for the young people coming in. They have to make themselves,
Yep.
if they want to advance,
Yep.
they have to make themselves stand out to whoever's in charge, the manager of that shop or whatever it might be.
Exactly.
And because if you're just average or below average, they're never.
Or
gonna
you hide.
Yeah,
so
or
you don't
hide,
have to work.
so you don't have to work. And kids think they're slick and they could get away with that stuff.
Yeah.
Everybody sees it.
Everybody sees it.
Yeah,
you read a person by a book.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
You
have to, and that was always my goal when I was young, was to make myself stand out above everybody else.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't have the most knowledge at the time, but I knew I had the work ethic and the drive.
That's right.
To make myself advance.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not saying you have to work till 6 to 10 that night. I don't say that. But you know, a farmer, guess what he has to do?
Yeah.
When the hay's ready to be cut, he works from 6 in the morning until dark.
You got to do what you got to do.
Got to do what you got to do.
Yep.
And I think if you look at a farmer and how hard he works, look at you as a technician and you work hard too.
Yep.
Nobody's expecting you to work from 6 until 10.
Yep.
But there might be a night when you have to, you know, everybody's leaving at 5. I knew a one body shop, and I won't mention no names, but at 5 o'clock, they were gone.
Yeah. Yep.
Pretty soon they were gone.
Yeah.
They're out of business. Because how can you leave a customer staying there at 5 o'clock when you could have spent another half hour and give him his car?
Give him his car, yeah.
Yeah. So to me, that tells you what kind of operation you are.
Yeah. And to me, whenever I was younger, particularly in the industry, if I gave my word of this car is going to be done at this day, once I give my word's very important to me.
You better believe
so if I tell the boss man in the morning, Thursday morning, that by Friday this car will be done, I'm not leaving until that car's done.
I agree. And a lot of guys are in that position, and that's why they put in a lot of time sometimes.
Yeah.
But you got to do what you got to do.
And it wasn't even because I was worried about the manager holding me accountable. It was my personal accountability.
Sure.
It would be, if I give my word on something,
it's got to be gospel.
Yeah, my word's important to me. So
how many friends never can be any place on time?
Yeah.
That's a personal decision.
Yeah.
I'm 10 minutes early every place that I go.
You were 10 minutes
15.
early today.
See, I learned from Vince Lombardi.
Yeah.
Vince Lombardi back in the 60s won championship, was a dynamite guy. But he said, always be there 10 minutes early. Yeah. Now, how many people do you know always come in at 10 or 20 minutes after 8 when they should have been there at 8?
Yeah.
There's a ton of them.
And what my biggest problem with that is, even if they're going to work late, it doesn't matter. It looks bad first thing in the morning to everybody else there. It's a bad image. Well,
and the problem is, if you're not there doing your job, you're screwing the whole shop up. Because it's all a process. The next car is ready to be painted. Yeah. So I come in at 8 o'clock and I'm painting the car. Well, if you come in at 8:20, you're 20 minutes behind. Now I got to wait for you to fix, get the car taped up so I can get it in the booth.
Yeah.
And that's not good.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, I don't care what anybody says, some people just can't get to work on time. Yeah. Well, that's always a mark up here, you know.
It looks bad. No matter how good, no matter how good the person is, it looks bad.
I agree. So be 10 minutes early, get ready to go, and that's one thing you can kind of control.
Yeah.
And be ready to go to work at 8. And I think that's one way to impress the boss.
Yeah.
But if you keep coming in at 10 o'clock, or not 10 o'clock, 10 after, 15,
it looks bad.
It looks bad.
Yeah. Even if you're working late, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It looks bad.
Yeah.
And it comes back to your word. If your word is, I'm going to work this time to this time, it's your word.
Yeah.
You give your word.
I agree. It's but it's this business. I mean, the friends that I've made in the automotive and collision business, they're in my heart every day. I mean, I'm telling you, they're the greatest people I've ever met. The instructors that I've met and worked with, we're just so blessed to have good instructors. Yeah. You just can't imagine. I mean, I remember when it was really bad. It was truthfully a shithole. Yeah. And that's all been cleaned up for many, many years, and we've had great teachers now for a long time.
Yeah.
And we got great administrations here that care about the student and work with us all the time and work with the teachers. That's what you need. And that nucleus has probably propelled us over I'll guarantee you, the last 15, 20 years.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you this. You talk about how a lot of the automotive industries and schools used to be shitholes.
Yeah, some were.
My tagline is bring respect back to the blue collar, because I feel like people don't respect those jobs because of an image that was given to blue collar trades 30 years ago, or whatever it might be. And it's different now, but I feel like people that aren't involved in different trades or don't have a dad in a trade or whatever it might be, they don't respect, they view the blue collar trades as being low paying, kind of dummies doing the job.
Well, we know better than that. We know better, don't we?
But how do we fix that?
Well, that's something that it's a personal thing. I mean, we've got people making tremendous amount of money in all vocational programs.
More money than a lot of people
realize,
than
they really realize. Yeah. In fact, when we go to, like Shelley and I a lot of times go to the schools and we go to the open houses and we talk about iCar and what we're doing and everything. And I've had parents say, I think I'm going to change and maybe think about going to work.
Yeah.
Because the money is good.
Yeah.
But it isn't good if you don't do what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Go to work on time, care about what you do, and do it better than anybody else. Yeah. And I'm telling you, the job's there, and the money is definitely there.
Yeah.
And and I'll tell you, many years ago, and I would say it was probably not too far, I'd say 76, 77, when we got in the body shop business as far as selling equipment. Mm-hmm. Many of those shops were terrible. Many of the shops were terrible.
A lot of people drinking at work.
And, oh my God, they were drinking and partying, and the place looked like crap.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that about every shop now maybe started that way, but they changed.
Yeah. They changed or they went under.
Well, they did. That's exactly right. And I've been personally involved with so many shops and helping so many shops. And now they're tremendous businesses. They're the best body shops we have in town. Mm-hmm. And all it took was just clean things up a little bit and run a good business. Take care of your customer.
Yeah.
When a customer picks up that car and it looks like $1 million, I mean, they're happy. Mm-hmm. They tell the boss, man, this is unbelievable.
Yeah.
But if the body shop is standing in front of the car, they got two guys now standing in front of the car, so the customer can't see how it looks, right?
Yeah.
And we're delivering a car.
They're gonna see it eventually.
Yeah, they're gonna see it eventually, and that's going to be a real problem.
Yeah. Whether they want to come back or not is a question,
But if you have a clean operation, nobody likes to work in a pig pen. Nobody lives in a pig pen. Every car you turn around, you clean it. You do the extra things. Mm-hmm. I mean, even the car dealerships, all of them are washing cars now and cleaning cars up for people. Mm-hmm. I mean, that wasn't. I mean, I started that way back when I was selling sun equipment. I mean,
and it wasn't a thing back then.
No, but you buy a car wash everybody's car. What the heck?
Right.
Market your product.
Yeah.
And that's what they're doing. And it's so much nicer going into the dealerships today and going into the body shops. They're professional. Mm-hmm. And, a lot of our shops are sold out now, but they're, Calibers come in and runs good facilities. Schaefer has been doing a tremendous job. I've known Steve his whole life, I think, almost.
Yeah.
When he started out there at Moore Cadillac.
I'm going to try to get him to do this with me sometime.
Yeah, you ought to. Steve's a wonderful man.
If he comes to town sometime, I'm going to try to get him to.
I don't know. I think that'd be a great thing to do. He's one of the great people in this industry. He knows what it is to start with nothing, build something, and what he has built and what Scott is doing now for him, like my son's doing for me. These guys are dynamite people.
Yeah.
And he's super. And you know what? He's always around.
Yeah.
He's not an absentee manager.
No.
You know what I'm saying? He's always there.
Yeah.
He even came out to our golf tournament.
Steve did?
Last year, I think. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's been there.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, he shows up and does things. I mean, he likes the business.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you got to have heart.
Yeah.
And if you got heart and you have passion for what you do, I'll tell you, if you hate your job, go just leave, change it, go find a job.
It's a miserable life. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a miserable life.
Yeah.
And I've seen people, and that's why people leave, or there's turnover. They get burned out sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, you can go balls out every day, but that gets to be old hat too.
And sometimes that's poor leadership too.
Well, it is poor leadership, especially if I, as an owner, allow you to do that every day.
Yeah.
Because people have to have some downtime. Mm-hmm. And, especially young people, I mean, they want to go have a beer maybe, right, or go to a party or meet some friends. You need to wind down and enjoy your life.
Yep.
And I think this business really can make that happen.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, if you're working for somebody and he's treating you like crap, I'll walk out the door in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
I'd rather be unemployed than to work for somebody that absolutely treated me like garbage. And
I
I know there's a lot of places sometimes that happens. Yeah.
I get so many messages from people on Facebook and Instagram, and I get a lot of messages of people at a small shop, and they're asking, they're like, oh, I'm not making much money, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And I always tell them, start looking around. Start looking around.
Yeah, and maybe you got to move.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you got to go out of state.
That's a lot of the cases is they're small town people.
That's right.
And that's a decision they have to make.
No, that's true.
But
well, I've had prostate cancer for 10 years, and I did the same thing. I researched I read all my books. I have read hundreds of books on cancer. I've never been treated for
Any
14
treatment?
years. No treatment whatsoever.
Really?
And I left town to be with another doctor. So I researched all the doctors, and I finally found one that agreed with me what I was doing, and he agreed to let me. So I go to Phoenix, and I meet with my doctor there. And,
how often do you have to do that?
Well, once a year is what I did. But the one thing you learn about that is that you yourself have to change. And I had to change my whole life around.
How you eat and
how you exercise, and a more positive attitude. Have you ever gone into a football game and said, I'm going to lose? Guess what? You're going to lose.
That's true.
I never went in a football game. I never went in any sport and said I was going to lose. I was going to win.
Right. And you're still healthy right now?
I'm still healthy.
14 years.
Yeah, 14 years.
So let me ask you this. What is your reason for not wanting treatment?
Well, I researched all the treatment.
Okay.
And the treatment that I talk about a lot is chemo, radiation, and ripping your prostate out. And as an example there, chemo has worked 2% of the time normally. That's not very good odds. Radiation, I've seen radiation in cases that actually spread to cancer. So if you had lung cancer, it spread to your hip. People who have had their prostate removed, and I know personal friends that that's the first thing they asked for, so the doctor cut it out. Well, let me tell you, cancer cells there's billions of cells. So if here's the tube to your prostate, and I cut that, what do you think happened? The cancer cells, because there's billions of them, went all over your prostate.
They just spread.
They spread. So you're fine, ruins your life, but you're fine for, say, 5 years. Well, after 5 years, what happens? Now they get cancer again.
They got to cut something else out.
Well, they can't cut it out no more because that little bugger is so mad that now it's a bad cancer. And you might not be able to do anything.
So your theory is to live with it and deal with it naturally.
I wanna be alive, and I don't want to die from cancer. I want to control my cancer. And that's what I'm trying to do. And I know for a fact that it's what you put in your mouth is going to determine how healthy you are.
Yeah, that's a
fact. And I was putting a lot of bad things in my mouth up until, I was 245 pounds, 14 years ago.
Right.
For me, that's 60 pounds too much.
Right.
I lost 60 pounds my first year that I became a vegan. So I got rid of meat, dairy products, and processed foods. And I cheat once in a while. I'm not being stupid about it.
Not extreme, but you're vegan for the most part.
Yeah. And I because of my research now, I have learned that cancer is addicted to methionine. And that's an amino acid. And cysteine is part of that picture too. So if you know that cancer loves methionine, and 1 3-ounce piece of salmon is 690 milliliters of methionine, and I should only, at 172 pounds, I should only be eating things that keep my methionine at 172 milligrams. Now, if I eat a steak at 950 milliliters, for me, how many days worth of food is that?
Right,
I mean,
so you know not to eat that.
No,
you're not putting that that's putting cancer in your body if you eat that.
Exactly. And processed foods, I like my cookies like everybody else once in a while.
Right.
Potato chips, I probably once in a while I'll have potato chips. Some of this stuff you just and on Thanksgiving, truthfully, I will have turkey because we're going to my daughter's house. I'll have a piece of turkey, but I'll be careful and just have a little bit. I don't eat a lot. But I eat mainly fruits and vegetables now.
Gotcha.
And that's how I'm controlling my cancer. And I exercise every day.
Yeah.
You know.
Wow.
Not rough or hard. I mean, I just maybe go walking or do leg lifts or something like that. But I mean, just do that. But once you know that, and right now my passion is I talk to cancer patients all over the country, and I actually have webinars on Saturday and Sunday, and we're cancer people helping each other, and we have doctors in our program. And we all agree that what we're doing is working. Yeah. And some of the bad cancers, like even pancreatic cancer, lung cancer, a lot of breast cancer, ladies, prostate cancer, we're all kind of getting stable. And that's what we're shooting for. So if you can just control your cancer, then to me, you're not going to die of it.
Right.
But if you let it keep on growing, and you keep feeding it with what you're putting in your mouth,
It's just going to spread.
you can't stop it.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and once it gets in your bones, and we have some people that do have some in their bones, and we're working with them, trying to get them to eat.
Yeah.
We have one challenge in England with one fella, and he's a little bit younger than me, and he smokes. And all we do is, I mean, I encourage him every time I talk to him. I says, come on, I got a lot of faith in you. You know you shouldn't be doing this.
Yeah,
you got to stop. He said, well, I quit one time. I said, well, you got to quit again.
Yeah, permanently.
Permanently.
Yeah.
And I said, the most successful people I know that quit.
Yeah.
And they stayed off of smoking.
Yeah.
And once you feel so much better, you got to get by maybe 18, 20 days of not smoking. Then your body really starts to fire up and you start feeling a lot better.
100%, yeah.
Yeah. So, but I mean, the biggest problem that I run across is they hear the word cancer and they got all kinds of anxiety and they think they're going to die. We've even got doctors that tell people to go home and get their stuff in order. I wouldn't do that. I'd say, what can I do for myself?
Right.
And that's where we are. We're all working ourselves on our bodies, and my body is my lab.
Yeah.
And it tells me whether I'm right or wrong.
Yeah.
And you know, it's strictly there's things you can do that you can slow it down, and you maybe not die of cancer.
I'll tell you something. You'll probably appreciate this. My daughter you just met a little bit ago,
Yes.
little baby.
Mm-hmm.
Her initials are Win, W-I-N.
Fantastic.
And the reason is Tess has had cervical cancer twice and wasn't supposed to be able to have any more kids.
Isn't that
She was not supposed to be able to have more kids.
That's fantastic.
So I call her our Win.
Yeah,
she's
you
my
better
Win.
believe it. Yeah.
So be interesting to talk to her whenever we're done because she actually lost her brother just last year from cancer. So it's gone through her family a lot.
Yeah.
But,
well, I can tell you. I mean, I'm not saying we have a cure,
right?
Because I think that's too big a word.
I've
been doing this.
Preventative.
Yeah, but I think
maintenance.
there's things we can do, and the fruits and vegetables are absolutely, to me, the answer.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you know, I'm in a group. There's over 100 of us now that we take a supplement. So we're trying to lower our methionine down to whatever our weight is. So if you're 170 pounds, then you try to get somewhere as close to that 170 milliliters of methionine. And naturally, you could go to 200 one time and go to whatever. Mm-hmm. But then we have methionase, which is a enzyme that lowers methionine.
Gotcha.
So we take a supplement, and I take like 4 times a day because I have a pretty high PSA, And I take 4 times a day. I take that after I eat my fruit and everything.
To help keep it down.
To help keep it down. And my PSA now is coming down. For some reason, last year it spiked on me, and I don't know why it did it, but it did it. During COVID, this is one thing research really helped, because most everybody that had prostate cancer during COVID, their PSAs spiked. And my spike.
I wonder why.
Yeah, well, the COVID attacks everything in your body. You know, I mean, it attacks your organs. It's a RNA virus.
So it's people that caught COVID.
Oh yeah.
Gotcha. Right. Okay.
Oh yeah. So and those RNA viruses are in your body, you know, and I had COVID long, which took me 10 months to get rid of.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Didn't have taste or anything for.
No, didn't bother me that way.
Gotcha.
I had, you know, I used to smoke cigars 14 years ago. So my COVID attacked my lungs, and I couldn't breathe. I was on oxygen for like 60 days.
Oh wow.
I couldn't even walk from here to that camera.
When was this was this early?
Well, it was
early
2020.
So it was early.
In August of 2020, yeah.
Gotcha.
There's so much you can do, and I could not walk 5 feet to go to the bathroom before I had to sit down.
Wow.
But you know what I did? I kept walking, and then I got 7 feet, and I got to 10 feet, and finally I was able to walk to the bathroom. And I did that. Well, then my family didn't appreciate me, but I would actually go outside with my oxygen tank, and I'd start walking. And they were all mad at me because I did that. But I was trying to move my life in a different direction.
Right. Rather than just being stagnant.
Yeah, I could have laid there and died.
Right.
You know, but
right.
I'm not that kind of person.
Right.
So I kept walking and walking and walking. And I had after effects for 10 months. Wow. And then I pretty well got rid of it. And this last month, I have felt the best that I have before I got COVID. I mean, I'm back normally to that.
Took that long.
And I'm playing the best golf every week. Yeah.
You play every week?
Once a week, rain or shine lately. I mean, we've played in the rain lately sometimes.
Yeah.
But we'll play all winter long if it's 40 degrees, and the course will let us on if it's 40 degrees. But a lot of times you can't start till about 10 o'clock because you got to get the frost off the greens. But we'll play all winter, and we don't miss too many weeks. So we have.
Who do you play with?
3 other guys.
Gotcha.
And now it's one gal's wife.
Gotcha.
And she really helps us on some of those nice long five holers. She gets about 100 yards ahead of us, so she helps a lot. So yeah, we've had a lot of fun. We shoot right around par. This last time we shot 5 under par.
Gotcha.
Our goal is to be under par. I mean, now I mean, we've been doing it long enough.
Yeah.
We're about at our peak. You know, I know I'm at my peak. I don't see how I can get any better.
It's funny. I live on a golf course. Basically, this is a golf course in here. And whenever I went to the golf ball drop back in, I think that was June. Whenever I went to that one that you were there, it was the first time I've ever golfed before in my life.
Well, you know, truthfully, when I was in business, I mean, we played like 4 times, 5 times a year, but they were all in charity tournaments. You know, everybody, some shops or, you know, Enterprise always had one, and Ron Reiling had them with the association. So that's all we played. And but then after I got cancer, then I had probably, I'd say maybe 5-6 years ago, I started playing more golf. Well, that's my exercise. I mean, you walk almost 5 miles when you play golf, you know.
And it's fun.
And so that really helps to stay in shape. But it's been there's so many things you can do once you make up your mind. And I'll tell you that probably the smartest thing people can do is be a winner. don't think negatively. And I mean,
Agreed.
there's so many things going on in America to be negative about, and
yeah.
I'm negative about a lot of things. But by God, about me, I'm positive.
Right.
You know, and
Right.
I'm not going to always be negative.
Right.
If you want to win,
Yeah.
if I want to fix that car,
I'm
then I got to believe I can do it.
Yeah.
And we're going to do it.
Yeah.
And that's what you do your whole life. Yeah. And I look back at my life, and I'll tell you what, it's positive, faith, exercise, and food, and having a good protocol that I do every day. I mean, those are things that are pretty consistent, and you can beat anything.
Yeah.
And I know there's more illness out there than you. I never dreamed there'd be so much illness.
And a lot of it probably is related to the food we eat nowadays.
Well, I'm convinced of that.
Yeah,
I mean,
I agree.
Yeah, I've read hundreds of books. Mm-hmm. I have probably put together 75 books on all the illnesses that are there that I've read about, that I, for heart and for hormones and for weight and diabetes and cancer. I mean, I've got books all over the place that I've read. Never dreamed I would do that, And I had to, when I got cancer and I became a vegan, I had to fix my own food, because I couldn't expect nobody else would want to eat that food.
How did you eat before that? Just traditional American
Everything.
diet?
Yeah, I ate meat 5-6 times a week.
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't believe I did that. But I mean, and fast foods.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, we're in business, right?
Yeah.
How much time did you have for lunch?
Yeah, I get it.
Go to McDonald's for breakfast and, go to Quick Hamburger for lunch or something.
Yeah.
And I just never realized what that was doing. But boy, once I became a vegan, I lost 25 pounds in 3 weeks.
Wow.
So my belly went. And I never felt so good. I felt so much better. Mm-hmm. And then after losing 60 pounds the first year, and you can't lose all that weight all at once. So right. I lost 60 pounds over a year. And that's what you got to do. I mean, if I would have lost 60 pounds in 3 weeks, I mean,
that'd be horrible.
That'd be horrible.
Yeah.
That's right. There's no way in the world they would have any fun doing that.
25 is a lot.
Yeah, right. Well, initially you're going to lose quite a bit.
Quick drop, then it'll kind of slow down, stabilize.
Right, and then your body adjusts. I'm 172 pounds now, and I could go to 150, but I eat a lot of fruits and a lot of vegetables. So, and I eat potatoes and sweet potatoes and things like, because you got to have calories.
Right.
But what a lot of people get confused about, they protein. No, never protein. You only need 10 or 15% protein. It's called fiber. And eat fiber, and it comes from your fruits, comes from your vegetables, things like that, and that just straightens your whole body out, So
interesting.
Yeah, it's quite a deal. I'd be happy to talk to your wife, because I talk to everybody, and we're all helping each other.
Yeah.
And supporting each other.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And think about that in life. Wouldn't you like to have had somebody over your shoulder that was your mentor helping you?
I did. I did.
Well, so did I.
Yeah.
That Bob Schweizer with Sun Electric that I went to work for, and when I went after my service station, he became my mentor, taught me everything I needed to know about selling equipment. Mm-hmm. And he actually moved into Chicago and then promoted me into Chicago. So, I mean, him and I were together for probably almost 25 years,
It makes me think,
not 25 years, 15 years.
My dad was a big mentor for me growing up.
Yeah, right.
My grandparents had an automotive shop.
Oh, okay.
But what makes me curious to ask you, because back in the 70s and 80s, they had Amoco stations with repair shops here in St. Louis. Jim Neely, I don't know if you ever knew him. That was my grandpa.
Sure I did.
You probably, cause I know they had Sun equipment.
I knew every one of them, yeah.
And you probably did. You probably did back in the day.
We sold them diagnostic machines like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every single Amoco automotive repair facility.
Yeah.
Probably ended up with an Amoco Sun machine.
Yeah. I know they had some.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm sure you probably did at some point.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how I grew up, was around the automotive. field with my dad. So,
well, and I think that's how you learn, and and there's a lot of parents. I mean, I don't think any parent, I hope they don't try to lump you into what they do.
Right.
You got to follow me because I'm the greatest.
Right.
That don't fly with me.
Yeah, that won't work.
You as a person have to want to do what you're going to do.
Yeah, 100%.
100%.
Yep.
And you can do anything you set your mind to if you got the passion and you get that bug in your body and you get that little tingling through your body. Every time you touch that car, it's a challenge, and it's making it run better, making it look better. Making all the lines right, making the striping perfect. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just,
Oh, yeah.
Once you get that bug, it's a great life.
Yeah.
But you also have to be able to stop that life and enjoy your life too.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes when we're younger, we work our asses off.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I can tell you, I was telling a story to somebody in my gas station. It was, we had 16-degree below weather and up to 33 degrees below for like 3 or 4 weeks. I mean, I worked from 10 until 1 every day at night. I mean, I worked, and I couldn't keep up, So to me, crises happen.
Yeah.
And then you got to adjust.
Right.
But
you figure it out and you work through it.
Yeah, you got to.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's what you have to do as a person. You can't work yourself to death. Right. And there are people who are workaholics. If they enjoy being a workaholic, I have no problem with that. Yeah. If they're happy and they take off once in a while and enjoy their life, I don't have a problem with that. Just don't ask me to be a workaholic.
Right.
Let me decide.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's very important is once you decide. Now, if you want to fluff off and screw off, life can maybe support you, maybe not,
Yep.
But take the other approach and do better than anybody else. And you'll stand out like a sore thumb. You'll be promoted your whole life, and you'll be in demand.
Yeah. My best advice to people is to make your career your hobby.
Yeah.
Make your career
exactly.
your hobby.
That's right. Love it.
Because then, they say you'll never work a day in your life, but
I know.
it's kind of true.
Yeah, it is. It is.
There's always going to be good days and bad days.
Yeah.
There's days I don't feel like going to work.
Oh, I know.
I know. It happens. But,
it happens.
But for the most part, I still enjoy what I do.
Yeah.
And I've been doing it for quite a while now.
Well, and I think that's the opportunity you have. And the one thing I wanted to mention, which I think is very important, let's say you go into the automotive program, but it really isn't your cup of tea. Well, look at all the jobs that are available. Yeah. I mean, you could be a secretary for somebody. You could be a tire salesman. You could be a lube person. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? There's so many jobs in every one of those businesses.
Yep.
And they need all kinds of people. So maybe you don't want to be a technician, but there's other things in this industry. The industry itself is booming.
Yeah.
It's a good industry.
Yeah. People think that if you're going to be if you're going to go into automotive, you're going to actually work on cars. It doesn't. There's just as many jobs not doing that, if not more jobs not doing that than there are actually doing that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, just look at all the parts people. They support in all the shop.
Yeah.
A lot of companies they're running parts to body shops and automotive shops. I mean, there's tons and tons of jobs available. If you like the industry, there's jobs there. Yeah. And they're decent paying jobs.
Yeah. Yeah. Or even if you're just a automotive enthusiast, but you don't necessarily want to get dirty doing it, there's endless jobs you could get into.
You know what makes me so excited is I've talked to a lot of girls, young ladies, and they'll come up and Shelley and I will be standing there talking to them, and all of a sudden I look at this one gal and I said, "You like cars, don't you?" She says, "I love cars." She stood in there and talked to me for 30 minutes. Her mom and dad almost died, because they never even knew how excited she was about fixing her own car.
Right.
And I said, "You're in the right place." She was at South Tech.
Yeah.
And I said, "They got a great automotive program here, and if you want to do the body," I said, "Ken's right here. I mean, hey, come on in." But they light up and just because they're a girl don't mean they don't love a car.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of girls mechanics out there. I think one time I checked at Rankin last year, they had 22 young women as mechanics.
Wow.
In their program down there.
Wow.
And we've always had girls in the body shop business too.
Yeah.
Collision. And so there's definite opportunities for everybody.
Yeah.
And the biggest problem that we've had in some of the past, which I'm sorry to say, we've had excellent painters, but they never were given the opportunity to make the money that they should have been paid.
Sure.
They were being taken advantage of.
Sure.
As a woman.
Yeah.
And sometimes there was a little resentment with the guy thinking she was better than he was, and
Right.
then he made her life miserable. But that's life. And that happens, I don't care. I told you a while ago I was fired in Texas, and I was fired in St. Louis here.
Yep.
Big deal.
Right.
There's plenty of opportunity to
work through it.
Yeah, work through it and do it.
Yeah.
And to me, you just got to find people that you want to work with, and they'll become your friends for life.
Agreed, 100%.
So,
well, Gene,
right.
I don't want to keep you
No,
all night,
well,
but I want to say I greatly appreciate you coming out here and doing this with me.
It's all right.
It's difficult for me to ask people to do stuff for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the type that'll move a couch myself because I don't want to ask someone for help.
I think most of us that do a lot of things.
Yeah.
we're all that way.
But it meant a lot to me whenever you said you would come out and do this with me.
Well,
so
that's
I
no
really
problem,
appreciate it.
and how you use it is up to you. And I enjoyed talking to you. It always has been that way. And I just hope that the younger generation that you're addressing your programs for, it's got to help them.
Yeah.
When they can see what you're doing and you're training them.
Yeah.
And you touch my heart when you do that because that's how I made my living.
Sure.
Is showing other people how to make a living, fix cars.
Yeah.
And when you see that happen, I mean, my gosh, it's tremendous.
Yeah. And I just want to inspire. I'm not even, my goal was never, even though I know people do learn a lot from me, that was never my goal. My goal was just to introduce what the actual real world of the industry is.
That's right.
And it's working.
It's working. No, I agree with you, and you're doing a great job.
Awesome. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
You bet.